Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. This Circuit Court of the 11th Judicial Circuit in and for Miami-Dade County is now in session. The Honorable Judge Nushin Safety presiding. All persons having business before this court come nigh, and you shall be heard. God save the United States of America and this honorable court.
Thank you, Lair. And if somebody over there can close the door, so I don't have to battle with that. Not that my voice can't overcome it, but thank you. Good afternoon, family, friends, and guests here and in the overflow courtrooms, and coming to us, our virtual guests on the YouTube channel. Welcome to the investiture of the Honorable Miesha Darrough as County Court Judge of the 11th Judicial Circuit of Florida. We've got a packed house today. Lots of federal judges in the House and a Supreme Court Justice, so my judges, please, good behavior. Please remain standing as we ask some very special guests to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Judge Darrough's goddaughters, Mia and Morgan Griggs, age 14 and 7, and Judge Darrough's mentees from the Embrace Girls Foundation, Haley Cordova, age 9, Kalia Jenkins, age 10, and Bella Registe, age 8. These keep getting cuter and cuter.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No pressure from anyone after that. That will be the act to beat. Young ladies, thank you so much. Now, as we continue to remain standing, please welcome Bishop and Senior Pastor Victory Curry and Elder Sabrina Adams, both from Judge Darrough's New Birth Baptist Church.
Good afternoon, thank you. If we could, in honor of Black History Month, turn your programs over, and we will sing, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Now, I'm not a singer, so y'all gotta sing with me. Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Thank you. Good afternoon again to each of you. It is indeed my honor and privilege to be standing here alongside my pastor, as well as Miesha's pastor, Bishop Victor T. Curry, for such a momentous occasion. What a joy it is to be a witness to the investiture of Miesha during a time when diversity and inclusion sits at the forefront of our hearts and minds, and especially during Black History Month. It is truly a dream realized. Jeremiah 29, verse 11 states, I alone know the plans I have for you, plans to bring you prosperity and not disaster, plans to bring about the future you hope for. It was only the Lord God, our Creator, who could have orchestrated time and space that would allow Miesha Darrough to be called here for such a time as this. Who knew that a little girl growing up in a small church in Leesville, Louisiana, being baptized at the age of 9 under the leadership of Reverend Robert Walker, would be appointed as county court judge to the 11th Judicial Circuit of Florida? It is of the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our sight. As I prepare to pray, I'm going to ask Bishop Curry, Miesha's spiritual covering for more than 15 years, if he would lay hands on Miesha, as it is our custom as we go before the Lord. Let us pray. Father God, it is in the name of Jesus that we come before you now. First, thanking you for allowing us to see this new day, filled with your grace and new mercies. We are also so grateful to be here at this appointed time to commemorate that which you have ordained to be so. We ask that you would release your anointing over your servant, the Honorable Miesha Darrough, so that she is able to fulfill her obligation to preside with fairness and integrity. Help her to rule with wisdom, courage, compassion, and humility as she allows the Holy Spirit to lead and guide her in her decisions. Allow her to experience your peace and bestow upon her great joy as she strives to walk worthy of the vocation for which she has been called. And then, God, let your blessings continuously overtake her, not just because she is your child, but also because you are just that good. We ask these things in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Everyone, please be seated. Today we have some very special guests who have joined us. Please stand as I call your name, or look for us to wave at you if you're out there on the YouTube channel, so you can be recognized. I'm going to ask sort of in vain that you hold your applause till the end, and I know that you're not going to do that, so I don't know why I keep asking. For what it's worth, I'd be clapping early too. All right, here from the Florida Department of Education, General Counsel and former ASA, Anastasios Kamoutsas. There he is. Our County Attorney, Jerry Bonzon-Keenan. I believe she might be with us virtually. Commissioner Keone McGee. There he is. Commissioner, wonderful friend of the courts, thank you. Victoria Mendez, City of Miami Attorney, and she's with us via live stream, also an alum of the state. So Kathy Rundle has a good showing here today. And there she is, right on cue. From the City of North Miami, Andre Pierre, former mayor. From the City of North Miami Beach, Irvins Ford, Deputy Police Chief, North Miami Beach Police Department. I'm pretty sure I deposed him when I was a public defender, so. From the City of Opelika, Commissioner Charlene Bass. From the City of South Miami, we have Charles Nanny, Assistant Police Chief, South Miami Police Department. From the New York Immigration Court, welcome back, Judge Kathy Sagess. Where is she? She's here somewhere. From U.S. District Court, Southern District, Anthony Gonzalez, U.S. Attorney. From the U.S. District Court, Southern District, Judge Darren Gales, also an alum of the County Court and Circuit Court, so welcome home, Judge Gales. From the U.S. District Court again, Southern District, Judge Donald Graham. U.S. District Court, Southern District, another alum of our county and circuit benches, Rodney Smith. No, there he is. Welcome home, Judge Smith. Magistrate Judge Lizette Reed, also from the U.S. District Court, Southern District. Welcome, Judge Reed. Judge Pat Seitz, needs no introduction, U.S. District Court, Southern District. From the Florida Supreme Court, but also from just down the street. So he's becoming one of us, Justice John Coryell. From the 3rd District Court of Appeal, Judge Monica Gordo. Did I see her? She might be with us virtually. Judge Alex Boker from the 3rd District Court of Appeal. Again, both of these alum judges. From the 3rd District Court of Appeal, retired judge, former chief judge, Frank Shepard. From the 11th Judicial Circuit, retired Judge Martin Zilber. There he is. From the Caribbean Bar Association, Joanne, I'm going to totally butcher your name, Laurel Cillier, President, and I believe she's here via live stream, and they did a wonderful program last night, so congratulations to you. From the Miami-Dade Bar Association, Sharice Morgan-Joseph, the Secretary. From the Dominican American Bar Association, Brenda Gitchev Guerrero, the President. From the Florida Association for Women Lawyers, Miami-Dade Chapter, we have Marianne Ruiz. And from the Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, Miami-Dade Chapter, we have Lauren Krasnoff. From the Florida Bar, Jordan Dresnick, Board of Governors. Also from the Florida Bar, we have Altanise Finellis from the Board of Governors. From the Gwen S. Cherry Black Women Lawyers Association, we have Nakia Ruffin, the President, who also is an alum of the 11th Judicial Circuit legal team. So welcome home to Nakia. From the Orange County Bar Association, Russell Drake. From the Wilkie D. Ferguson Jr. Bar Association, do I even need to say his name? We all know. President in perpetuity, Travis Randolph. From the 11th Judicial Circuit Nominating Commission, Scott Diamond. From the 11th Judicial Circuit Nominating Commission, Marva Wiley, who's the former chair, and also Hans Attenat, who's the former chair. With us via live stream, Richard Cooper is the Executive Director of the Miami-Dade County League of Cities. From the Government Supervisors Association of Florida, Frederick Green, its president, and president of the Lynx-Dade County Chapter, Denise Waiters. And if by any chance I missed your name, please let Eunice know or let someone know. Someone will text me, and I promise I will get to you. So thank you all. Also here today, we have members of our Greater Court family. On behalf, actually no, Carlos Martinez is with us via live stream. Hi, Carlos. On behalf of Eugene Zenobi, our regional counsel, we have Nike Odebayo, one of his deputies. On behalf of Harvey Rubin, we have his director, Doreen Ruggiero, who's here with us virtually. And last but certainly not least, we have our state attorney, Ms. Catherine Fernandez-Rundle, also former boss of Judge Darrough. And supporting our day-to-day court operations with their expertise and wisdom, the judiciary is nothing without them. Representing our administrative office of the courts, we have Deputy Director Sandy Garcia, and the little voice in my ear all day, every day, our General Counsel, Pat Gladson, and our incredible AV team who have, again, been rolling with the punches. And this is our, I don't even know, 10th investiture since, I guess, in September. And they've been doing an incredible job making sure we get this broadcast to the masses during the pandemic, and honestly, a practice that we're going to keep doing. And for those of you that want to see it again, you can go to the YouTube channel later on and watch it all and see what you missed. So thank you to our AV team for doing that. And to Eunice Ziegler and Marissa Gavica, who are our public information officers, who, as I always say, the cruise directors, the wedding coordinators, they make this event happen. And again, they've been going above and beyond through this last few weeks to get everybody up and going. So thank you to both of them. So thank you all to everyone who's here. Again, if I missed anyone, please let me know. Before we begin the program, as was already alluded to, this is Black History Month. And in less than, I think, 2 weeks, we have Women's History Month. And Judge Darrough made it a point of choosing this date as her investiture date, which I think is wonderful. This happens to be the 4th investiture of a Black woman that I've had the honor to preside over. And in the weeks ahead, I'm going to have my 5th, which is going to be Judge Michelle Delancey, who's, I think, here somewhere. And it's historic, it's remarkable, but I kind of wish it wasn't historic, and I wish it wasn't so remarkable. But today is a good day, and our bench is more diverse and reflective of the people we serve than most. And I love the fact that little kids, and we've all been addressing little kids in school for Black History Month. Most of the judges have been doing that. And I love the fact that any kid in Miami, in any corner of Miami, can look at our bench and say, you know what, one day I'm going to do that. So thank you to Judge Darrow for pursuing your dream and making that possible. Now for remarks on behalf of the Florida Bar, we have a member of the Board of Governors and son of retired Judge Ronald Dresnick, Jordan Dresnick.
Thank you, Your Honor, for those kind words, and thank you all for being here. It's wonderful to be among so many distinguished jurists, good friends, dedicated colleagues, and proud family members as we gather on this special day to celebrate the investiture of Judge Miesha Darrough to the county court. A simple glance of the front page of any major newspaper speaks of a looming war in Eastern Europe and labor shortages and humanitarian crises in all corners of the world, a rehatching of yet a new COVID variant. But through it all, America remains the bedrock of a balanced democracy thanks to our strong adherence to this elusive tenet that we call the Constitution as measured by this court. Today, this court gains its newest member in that process, one who brings nearly 2 decades of lawyering to the bench. With an arduous training at Howard University School of Law in our nation's capital, a purveyor of innumerable jury and bench trials as an assistant state attorney and federal prosecutor, Judge Darrough is a veteran on the battlefield for truth. We stand in awe of the words that are etched in every courtroom, such as the one behind me, that we who labor here seek only truth. So what is truth? Is it what's written on an A form? Is it the grainy video showing what caused the accident? Is truth what the expert swears to? Greek philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle created a class of theories that told us what truth is and told us it was between intellect and objects. But we can take solace in knowing that Judge Darrough's future on the bench will bring us all every day so lovingly close to that truth and finding it in what we call the People's Court. Her career stems out of a commitment to justice and trial by one's peers, 2 canons cemented through her experience at the Department of Justice. As we mark the beginning of her tenure on this court, we applaud her service as a tireless proprietor of legal success. Speaking of honor and success, a former colleague of Judge Darrough shared a funny story, and one that I think we're compelled to explore here today. An apparent rivalry between different classes at the U.S. Attorney's Office challenged each other to a fun evening of poker. Judge Darrough, who was new to the game, thought that a full house was a TV show starring Bob Saget. She thought that flush is what the plumber does. But Judge Darrough was a rapid study. She spent 3 hours learning Texas Hold'em and 7-card stud, and that evening, she beat every assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of Florida who played the game.
So dramatic.
We can only reaffirm the greatness of our country when jurists like Miesha Darrough stand as giants to affirm every weak voice, no matter how muted its access to this court. Our journey in this country has not been etched out of shortcuts. It's been individuals like Miesha as a young A at USA who, in the words of her trial partner, shattered a silence in that jury box every time she crossed a witness. Friends, the journey of our profession has not been forged on a path for the faint-hearted. In the words of a member of the JNC who recommended the appointment of Miesha, said, "I have yet to meet an applicant as prepared." Colleagues, our expedition as a nation has been carefully awestruck by those who have struggled and sacrificed. In the words of one of Judge Darrough's Florida Bar Leadership Academy classes, Miesha's smile could light up a stadium. Our journey has not been paved for those who prefer leisure over toil or distinction over principle. As we sit here today, we're made safer by having Judge Darrough having had prosecuted state and federal crimes and balanced the impact of victims. And it's that pledge to the otherwise fallen on hard times that would uniquely instill in Judge Darrough her drive to serve as a compassion for truth. As a governor of the Florida Bar, and on behalf of our now 111,000 members, good luck and Godspeed, as we know that in every case, in every instance, and in every endeavor, you, Judge Darrough, will do what's necessary and right to build a safer, stronger, and more just society. And this court is blessed by a stunning legal mind dedicated to be a fierce advocate for justice, a profession, a constitution, and country that you love so dearly. Thank you for your service.
Before I introduce our next speaker, I'd also like to acknowledge CABA President, as of a week ago, Miriam Ramos is here with us. Also, Miami-Dade Trial Lawyers Association incoming President, Rochelle Wimbush, and Miami-Dade Fire Department retired Fire Chief, Carls Paul Noel. And I'm not sure how I forgot this, because I said hello to her back there, and I was staring at her face throughout this, but my phone, Judge Altanaga would be happy to know, blew up about 25 times while I was going. Chief Judge of the Southern District of Florida, Cecilia Altanaga, also the first female chief that the U.S. District Court in the Southern District has seen. Now for remarks on behalf of the Miami-Dade Bar Association, we have Judge Darrough's friend and secretary of the organization and another distinguished attorney. Please welcome Sharice Morgan-Joseph.
Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon, judges. It's a pleasure to see you all again in a far less pressure situation. Thank you, Chief Judge, and hello to my good friend back there. And thank you all for able to come of the many joint bar associations who frequently work with the Miami-Dade Bar. It's our pleasure to have you and to serve with you. We count you as brothers and sisters in the law. So I have the absolute pleasure of speaking on behalf of my dear friend, Miesha Darrough, and I want to share a summarized timeline of how I met Miesha, an outsider's view of watching her become Judge Darrough, and one story of tenacity in the face of an insurmountable giant. So I'd like to begin with my first impression of Miesha, as what happens occasionally when you first meet people in the same profession. You know you have things in common. We sort of look alike on a face value, and we have some things in common. But when we first met, it was just sort of passing cordialities at bar events. She was practicing in criminal, I in civil, so we never had the opportunity to run into each other in court or to share the benefit of any real war stories. And then in 2018, we were both chosen from Miami to represent at the Leadership Academy Council as fellows for the 2018 class. The Academy selects lawyers from across the state to meet bi-monthly and develop and enhance leadership skills and to network, collaborate, and build relationships with state and national bar leaders. Interestingly, during our fellowship term, we got to attend an en banc session of the Supreme Court for oral arguments. We got to attend a formal dinner with the governor and sit in on a legislative session. And these, of course, were all according to the Gregorian the calendar as BC, before COVID. At the first meeting in June of 2018, I had my initial impression confirmed that Miesha seemed cool, down to earth, and fun to be around. On paper alone, you quickly realize Miesha's impressive, smart, but she was a standout in our leadership class because despite a vigorous and demanding caseload, she would show up at every meeting as prepared and contributing as every other fellow. By the second meeting in August of 2018, word of Miesha winning several awards and recognitions had made the rounds, and Miesha was quickly becoming a bona fide rock star of our class. In 2018, she was awarded the Cystic Fibrosis 40 Under 40 Outstanding Lawyers, as well as the Wilkie D. Ferguson Jr. Bar Association's Rising Star Award. By the third meeting in October, Miesha was asked to and became the United States Special Counsel. She was serving on the Federal Practice Committee, and in addition to her mentorship work that she does on the Board of Directors for the Embrace Girls Foundation. She was also serving on the Florida Bar's Standing Professionalism Committee with me. The interesting thing is Miesha never talked about any of this. She would not tell us she had received some award, but because we had enough fellows in the bar service circles, we'd hear about it, and we'd celebrate her when we all got together. I think this is also the meeting where Miesha and I learned that we share a love of travel. My frivolities are on the permanent exhibition location of the digital library known as Facebook. But Miesha has traveled all over the world as well for all kinds of reasons. For her family, every year, she plans an extravagant international trip over the Thanksgiving holiday. That year, 2018, they traveled throughout Italy. And if you ask her brother Lionel or anyone that's traveled internationally during those Thanksgiving trips with Miesha, they will tell you that she is like a drill sergeant. Miesha has researched the place where they will visit, and there will be a very detailed itinerary with times and locations for each day. She will have you getting up early in the morning and going all day long, despite protest. However, by the end of the trip, everyone is grateful because you end up with these amazing experiences like riding camels in Morocco and spending the night in the desert. But I promised you one story of tenacity in the face of an insurmountable giant, and here it is. At the February meeting in Tallahassee, when asked where my next destination would be, I replied, I'd planned a solo trip to Egypt, hoping to finally see the pyramids. Sitting a row ahead of me in the auditorium setup session, Miesha overheard my travel plans. I'd like to stress she was not a part of this conversation, and exclaimed, "Really? I'm going on that trip with you." I sent her my proposed itinerary, and much to my surprise, she booked her plane tickets before I did. Wow. So at the March meeting, I learned that Miesha was going to have foot surgery the following week and about 3 weeks before we leave for Egypt. Since I originally planned this as a solo trip, it was of no harm to me. I wished her well, told her let me know when she'd be available for the next travel. Miesha was not worried. In fact, she was resolute. She says, "I'll be ready to go by then." The morning of her flight to Egypt, her stitches are removed, and she's given a flat boot to wear rather than the big airwalker boot that she initially had to wear. She flies out late that night, heading to Cairo with the layover in Istanbul. We travel separately. I was coming from Dubai, and Miesha was already in Istanbul. Unbeknownst to me at the time, the following occurred. An elongated international terminal and Miesha's post-surgery foot caused her to miss her connecting flight to Cairo. Undeterred, she rebooks on the 6 a.m. flight. She sleeps at the airport. Around 2 a.m., she wakes up in the airport and realizes that she does not have a shoe that properly fits her now swollen foot. Her stitches had been removed, but her foot is bandaged and won't fit a regular shoe. She walks being used loosely here. She walks around the airport from store to store trying to find any shoe that will fit her foot, and nothing fits. She goes to probably the last store. Salespeople encourage her to try on a sandal. Finally, one of the reps suggests trying on a men's shoe. They find a well-made men's sandal that looks like something that Jesus would have owned in Bethlehem. She gets to Cairo the next morning and is ready to go like a child on Christmas morning. We were all over Cairo, and Miesha never missed a beat. She never slowed down, trekking up and down the pyramids, riding camels, horse carriages in Aswan, where we hiked up steep hills to see Coptic churches, a dingy boat ride to the Nubian village, a shaky ship to Luxor, a 3 a.m. hot balloon ride over the Nile, I'd like to add was her ideal. In Aswan, we went to a museum where we were separated looking at different items. The next thing you know, I hear Miesha calling my name. I find her, and she's surrounded by about 20 to 30 small school kids that are just smiling and waving at her. She says she called me because the teachers wanted to take pictures with her, so she wanted me to get in as well. So somewhere on that digital library of Facebook, there is a photo of Miesha and I looking terrified in Egypt, surrounded by several family, friends, all locals, students, and teachers. It was a wonderful experience in retrospect. By the 6th meeting in May, Miesha is applying to be a judge. The entire class is excited and trying to figure out what we can do to help make it happen. During this meeting, on every break and over lunch, she was on the phone. I asked, "What are you doing?" She said, "I have to list a bunch of cases, and for each case, I have to list all of the attorneys involved." She was calling every attorney she had on the list for her application and wanted them to know that she was applying. "I have to know what's coming," she said, and that's no surprise, because as you've already heard here, and you probably already know, Miesha's always prepared. You just heard about the foot. That is why she's a great attorney, bar leader, and community advocate and judge. By the time we graduated from Leadership Academy in June, Miesha had applied and was now preparing for her interview. In July, she starts the interview process, first time she's ever interviewed to be a judge, and in December of 2019, she's appointed to become a county court judge. I tell you now how we met BC before COVID, how my dear friend limped through the ancient world of old in her Jesus sandal, and it's now the year 2022 AD. All of this occurred in just my first year of knowing Miesha back in 2018, and she's not stopped. You ask the attorneys to appear before her, and they will say she has great judicial temperament, patience, respect, she listens. And no one's surprised how she adapted to being a judge. When you look at her life, what she's accomplished, who she is, and how she treats people, she was meant to be on the bench. Judge Darrough is a tremendous contribution and asset to the legal profession and our community. And for those of us who are lucky enough to call her friend, she is especially a gem. I want to share, as a part of the Miami-Dade Bar, we always donate a Bible to the judge being invested. And inside of hers, I wrote an excerpt from the National Youth Poet Laureate Amanda Gorman's The Hill We Climb. It reads, "For while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. For there's always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it." Thank you all very much.
You know, Sharice, as you were telling the Egypt story, as you were telling the Egypt story, she leaned over and she goes, "You know, she wanted me to go with her from the very beginning." One more VIP that I've forgotten to introduce. Didn't check in properly, but he's taking pictures right now. Luis Suarez, also formerly from the 11th Judicial Circuit Nominating Commission. Thank you, Louis. All right, we have a plaque here commemorating the special day, what all judges longed for. In addition to covered parking, the other perk we get as judges is from the county conference, you have a desk plate to look official. And now, on behalf of the judge's family and friends, please welcome Lionel Darrough, the judge's brother.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'll basically inform you before I even get started. I'm going to try my best to get through this. Because if you knew what my sister's been through, and that true story, it's hard to tell. But I'm going to do what I can. I'm here today to speak about my biggest hero, Miesha Darrough. I will explain how that became. August 20th, 2019, before the pandemic, I was asked to do a speech. Now, for me, this was the most amazing thing because I was able to speak about someone who has done so much for me, and I finally get a chance to return a favor. And who better to explain how amazing my sister is than me, who's known her whole life. My sister is simply talented, gifted, and hardworking. She truly has the favor of God in her life. My sister of 10 years old showed her one of her many talents. When she was 10, she was exposed to instruments through her teacher. The school was having the students learn about musical instruments, and she took a liking to the clarinet. But she did not tell my mother. Unlike me, my sister understood and was aware of our financial situation. So she did not ask for a lot of unnecessary things that she knew may or may not be able to receive. She knew buying a clarinet would not be cheap, so she did not say anything to my mother. The teacher is the one who talked to my mother about it. He thought she was talented, and she joined the elementary band. But she would have to have her own instrument. Our mother made it happen and got her that clarinet, and she soon excelled at it soon after. She did so well that in junior high school, she was allowed to audition in the high school band and made it all the way to the marching band and started auditioning for the high school band. And soon after, she started competing, performing with the band. By the time she got to high school, she was competing individual competitions and had made the Louisiana All-Star and Louisiana All-State bands playing the clarinet and even the bass clarinet. By her sophomore year, she had been elected to be the president of the band. Miesha loved going to school and was always an amazing student. Her teachers loved her and praised my mother for her success. Miesha is a very private and humble individual. She does not talk about a lot of her successes or things she does. And she has been like that her whole life. Therefore, so many times that my sister would do something and people would be like, wait, what happened? Who is this person? Then they would find out about her and they were like, oh, now I get it. She was a sophomore in high school, president of the band, and the band director wanted her to train to become the drum major of the band. My mother was so proud and so proud. However, Miesha told my mother not only did she not want to be in the band anymore, but she didn't want to be the drum major either. She didn't want it, so at this time, she wanted to do so many other things. My mom was surprised and supported her decision. But my sister had our mother go talk to the band director because she knew he would be devastated that she no longer wanted to be in the band. My sister is tough, but she is also soft-hearted. Up until this point, my sister had devoted a lot of time to the band, and because of that, there were other things in school that she was not able to join or fully participate in. She was active in other activities and academic competitions. The school would also send her to regional and state literary rallies to compete in academic competitions, and she would place every time. However, she wanted to be more involved in student government and wanted to run for office, but not just any office. She wanted to be the president of the school. Now, two things you need to know about that. She was only a junior, and a junior had never served as a president at the school. And there had never been a black president at the school. When things were pointed out to my sister, she didn't care. Junior, senior prom, the juniors planned the seniors prom. So as such, the seniors had an interest in the class officers of the junior class. Seniors told her, you would have to be a class officer because they wanted to make sure the committee had hard workers, and she was definitely a hard worker. As a compromise, my sister ran for the president of the school and parliamentary of her school so that she could help with the prom committee. She hands down won both positions, becoming the first junior and black president of the school. She went to serve a second term, being the first to serve 2 terms as a president and helping bringing a lot of change to our school. I need to backtrack a little bit, just a little. When she started high school, my sister and her friend, Tanya, she's here today, decided they were going to graduate high school early, just like Tanya's sister has done before and my mother did in the past. After her freshman year, Tanya's family moved away. Miesha and Tanya were like 2 peas in a pod. They went to the same school, church, took the same classes, and were both in band. Freshman year, she had declared she was graduating in 3 years, so her courses were set for that. Miesha had become close with her classmates and involved in a school that she did not want to graduate early anymore. So she initially did not take one required course, so she would not qualify to be able to graduate her junior year. Senior year, she only had 1 class to take to graduate. The class she took is offered the first period of the day. All she had to do was show up for 1 hour. She was at the top of her class and on track to graduate valedictorian. School policy was, if you did not have classes to attend, you could not be on campus. No problem for any senior, because leaving as soon as they can, and if they had any activities later in the afternoon or after school, they could come back then. Well, she didn't have that luxury. We did not have a car, so she could not go back and forth coming to school. There was no bus to take her either, so Miesha had to stay at school all day, which meant she had to take unnecessary classes. All the classes, all day. She signed up for the required courses, joined the yearbook staff, because that was a class as well, and became a teacher assistant for 2 different teachers. Even with that schedule, she was still short and needed to find 1 more class to take, and it had to be offered during the last period. She found out that there was going to be a new class starting that next year that dealt with weightlifting. The school wanted to start a girls' powerlifting team. So they were starting courses to teach about weights, weightlifting, and was doing it during the last period of the day. She signs up for it. Now, she had a full day of classes and could stay on campus all day. She had absolutely no interest in weightlifting and only took the course because it offered during 7th period. And it would not require a lot of work. To pass this class, the girls had to attend the Louisiana State competition for girls powerlifting and compete. So if she attended the meet in Baton Rouge she would pass the class with an A. We dropped her off, me and my mother dropped her off one day at school, and the class traveled to the state meet. Later that night, we go pick up my sister, and she had a trophy in her hand. I think they must have gave out participation trophies for the females. How cute. Miesha had individually placed second at the state meet. My mom and I were shocked. How did you place second? What do you know about weightlifting? I don't even remember her ever talking about the class or even anything to do with weights. Senior year, she was a school president, homecoming queen, student of the year, voted most likely to succeed in life, and Miss PHS. Something I thought knew everything about her, what she was doing. She told us the instructions during the class, taught them about the various positions and how to hold the weights. I just did what I was taught throughout the year, and I placed. I was surprised, too, when they called my name. She went on to say, if I had have lifted more on the bench press, I think I could have won first place. I did well with the deadlift and the squats, but by the bench press got me, and it just took a lot that she was over it. She never mentioned weightlifting again, and never competed again. I told you she got out of the band after the sophomore year. During her junior year, she was able to attend home football games, but not rarely away games because we did not have a vehicle at that year. Miesha was really liked attending the games because her friends and whoever else were the stars of the team, and our sport teams were dominant during those years. She wanted to attend the games. She missed several games that year because of no transportation. Miesha goes to the head coach and lets him know she was interested in becoming a football manager. The coach is shocked she wants to be a football manager, but is excited because the team needed to replace one of the managers who had graduated the year before. Senior year, she becomes a football manager, just so she could attend the away games. The coaches loved her, so they were okay with her attending the practices once she finished whatever she needed to do throughout the day, and they were not strict on her and hard on her either. The most I've ever saw her do at a game is give out water and towels and maybe wrap one ankle in exchange. She got to sit on the sidelines and watch all the games. As a result of this, Miesha lettered in powerlifting and football. She received a Letterman jacket for powerlifting and football. And remember, she placed in state for powerlifting, and football team had a successful year. Here I am thinking she got all that simply because she did not have transportation. At the athletic banquet, she got awards. She broke a lot of barriers. She showed what some thought could not be done, that it could be done. She was also the first Black valedictorian at this school. College and law school, I was not there. But she was always doing amazing things. She joined AKA while at Howard, and my mom and I were like, that's great. We did not know what it all really was about, and I was still in high school. People would ask me about my sister being at AKA and mention that being at Howard was the Alpha chapter. That was hard to do. It was hard to do. I did not know what any of it meant, but I knew if my sister was involved in it, it had something to be great. Once I got to college myself and saw the fraternities and sororities processes were like, I asked Miesha, how did you do that? There are hundreds of females that apply to be an AKA every year, especially at Howard, and she made it on her first try. It is also expensive to join a sorority. I knew she never asked my mother for money. However, she paid for everything by herself and even purchased my mother an airline ticket so that my mom could attend the show. She had to work hard to be noticed and selected, and she worked well. She was in school to save up. She saved up money to pay for all of this while working. In law school, she was elected to serve on the board of trustees for Howard University. To be on that board, she had to be elected not just by the students at the law school, but all the graduate schools. Howard had a bunch of them. So I was like, how do you even know the students at the other schools? Miesha has been a force to be reckoned with, but has always managed to make sure I was okay. No matter what situation I found myself in, my sister has always had my back. What's so great about all this is she remains humble, gracious. She keeps her head up, stays clean, and just puts in the work. Her default setting is to work hard and to perform at a level of excellence. She has her moments, but she tries to not let things get her down. She is loyal, funny, caring, and does everything with a smile. And that's why my sister is my biggest hero. Thank you.
Now for further personal remarks on behalf of the judge's family and friends. And a lot of tough acts to follow, but I think you can do it, Judge Prescott. Her mentor and our very own circuit judge and administrative judge of the Juvenile Division, Judge Orlando Prescott.
Good afternoon to you. To our chief, Judge Darrough, family, brothers and sisters on the bench. For those of you who have not seen me in a while, you wonder where the highlights come from in my beard. All you need to do is to turn around and look that way. I had the pleasure of serving in our criminal division in Richard E. Gerstein Justice Building. And this young lady came in one day, and she introduced herself as the division chief of the state attorney's office. And then the light went off in my head. Because approximately 2 weeks before I received a telephone call, who's Auntie? I received a telephone call from Auntie, who said, my baby is coming to your courtroom. And she doesn't have any friends. I need you to be nice to her. So I've taken this telephone call from a woman I don't know about, an attorney that's supposed to appear before me. So I said, ma'am, I'm sorry, I can't do that. She said, no, you don't understand. She hasn't had any friends when she was a child. She made up friends. I will pay you. Oh, well, how much? I never cashed any of those checks because I couldn't. Because she wrote to the payee, Miesha's friend. I joke because I can. I joke about people who are competent. As I told you, as I sat on that bench and she walked in and she introduced herself as an assistant state attorney, as the division chief responsible for the supervision of attorneys in that courtroom and responsible for trying the higher level cases, the homicides, the sexual batteries, and things of that nature. I got an opportunity and a glimpse of who that person was. Because she wasn't just intelligent, because she had the knowledge, but she was smart. It was the application of that knowledge that I grew to appreciate. Because as an assistant state attorney who was responsible for prosecuting cases on behalf of the state of Florida, she embraced not being a prosecutor, but being an attorney who happened to prosecute. And please excuse me, let me explain to you what I mean. Sometimes a prosecutor can become myopic and they can see one thing. Miesha had a full vision. She would walk in and her smarts will allow her to dissect things. Mrs. Rundle, you made a great decision in selecting her because as a division chief, she was a manager. She had to manage the attorneys before her. But she exceeded that. She wasn't just a manager, because a manager simply makes sure that they do it the right way. To dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure the policy and procedures are done. Miesha became a leader. She made sure that it wasn't just done the right way. She saw to it that the right thing was done. And I watched this young lady stand before me, and it was the way she carried herself. You're absolutely right. She has a smile that can light up the room, and she would always smile. But don't let that smile fool you. She is a quiet storm. Because in the well of the courtroom, she handled herself so well. And you have to excuse me, I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege in this month of February. As a black man, I had such pride in watching her, standing before me, presenting, representing the people of the state of Florida. And I say the people of the state of Florida because not just it was the state of Florida versus John Doe, she represented John Doe as well. Right across the street, there's a building, the Lawson Edward Thomas building. Judge Thomas was the first black judge after Reconstruction right here in Miami. And he said he used the law as a shield and a sword. Miesha, you did that each and every day you walked into that courtroom. And I watched how she presented herself and she carried herself. Lady Justice was proud because she had an ally. And we were proud because we had somebody that could spread justice evenly. Then Miesha came to me and she said, you know, I'm thinking about going to the U.S. Attorney's Office, but I don't know if I can do it. And Auntie, that's when your chance to be her friend came in. Because aside from us having this relationship, this professional relationship in court, and I watched her, it was easy for me to speak to her after court because I respected her so much. And we had that conversation, and I told you this before. When you told me that that was your desire, I had never done it before, but I called the U.S. Attorney's Office because I knew she could do the job. I knew what it took to stand before you, and you, and you, and she had it within her. So as she matriculated to the U.S. Attorney's Office, it wasn't long before she left the realm of being a trial attorney, but she actually became part of the administration. So I'm standing back and I'm watching her rise with her intellect, her smarts, her ready, infectious smile, her managerial skills, her leadership skills, and my sense of pride. I decided not to cash any of the checks. But you have to understand, Judge Darrough and I have a love-hate relationship. I would love for her to leave me alone, and I hate the fact that she doesn't. So if you see us in conversation, she has 4 words for me that she says to me repeatedly. I can't stand you. And then when it gets real good, she says, ooh, I can't stand you. But I don't have to say more because, as the kids would say, I can show you better than I can tell you. So I'm going to introduce somebody very shortly that can show you what she means. But Judge Darrough, in this month, out of the huts of history's shame, what do? I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise. So I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to introduce someone that needs no introduction to show you how much she means, Mr. Larry Hanfield.
Chief Judge,
judges, family, and friends of our honoree. As we celebrate Black History Month, I think it's very befitting that we also pause and celebrate the Black history, Miesha, that you are making today. I was running a little late today, not because of a prior court, but because earlier today, Miesha almost ran me over when I was leaving the bank. But as a federal graduate of Howard University, I want you to know that you today continue the great legacy of outstanding graduates of Howard University. Folks like former Justice Thurgood Marshall of the United States Supreme Court, Vice President Kamala Harris, my deceased uncle Wilkie Ferguson of the United States District Court Judge, United States District Court Judge Darren Gales, and definitely last but not least, Justice Tanya Brinkley, Circuit Court Judge Tanya Brinkley, among just a few outstanding graduates of Howard University. So I have been given this honor to present to you, and I would like for all graduates of Howard University to stand with me at this point. Because, Miesha, based upon all of your accomplishment, I have the high honor and privilege to present to you this proclamation given by Howard University School of Law and the university. I'm not going to read it in the interest of time, but it says the beginning, whereas Miesha Darrough is a 2005 graduate of Howard University School of Law, and it closed by saying, therefore, as Dean of Howard University School of Law, we do hereby proclaim February 11, 2022, Miesha S. Darrough Day at Howard University in Washington, D.C. Now, as a mentor and close friend, I know personally that this is only a comma and not a period, because I know that greater things are destined for you. But recognize that this is a copy for you, but the original is being kept and will be maintained for historical purposes at Howard University School of Law. And another copy that you give to Auntie.
And now you can actually stay right there. Now for the oath of office and robing, I would like to ask our former colleague, U.S. District Judge Darren Gales, to join Judge Darrough and her loved ones at the podium for the oath. Welcome back up her brother Lionel Darrough, Irma Hudson, her auntie, come on down, Janeste Murray, Alicia Hudson, Kelvin Darrough, Andrea Darrough, her cousins, LaTanya Blanks and Velma Lawrence, her close friends, HT, is HT here? No? Virtual, HT Smith with us virtually, someone who needs no introduction, and Veronica Garman, friends and mentors to Judge Darrow, and Woody and Deborah Blanks, her godparents, who are also with us via live stream.
May it please the court, Chief Judge Safey, distinguished guests, my current and former colleagues on the bench, it is a great honor to administer the oath to Judge Darrough. You know, listening to all the speakers, although I've known you for a long time, we have so much in common. I, too, was my high school student council president. We were both elected by the student body at Howard to represent them on the Board of Trustees. We both were assistant state attorneys, assistant United States attorneys, county judge, and I'm sure this is not your last investiture. And I wish you all the best in your career because you deserve it. Now, with that being said, I'm going to ask that you please raise your right hand and place your left hand on the Bible. Okay. And I'm going to ask that you please repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Miesha Darrough,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States of America
the Constitution and government of the United States of America
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am qualified to hold office
that I am qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state of Florida,
under the Constitution of the state of Florida,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of Judge of the County Court
the duties of Judge of the County Court
of the 11th Judicial Circuit of the state of Florida,
of the 11th Judicial Circuit of the state of Florida,
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Oh, God, okay. First, I want to thank you all for being here today. When I look around this room, I am just overwhelmed and amazed and humbled because different groups represent different times in my life, different experiences, and to see all of you come together like this, it's just amazing as to how far I've come, how far we as a family have come. This morning, I posted a saying by Martin Luther King. It said, use me, God. Show me how to take who I am, who I want to be, and what I can do, and use it for a purpose greater than myself. And this quote just stuck with me because it reminds me of, being a little girl, coming from humble beginnings and not always having enough. But, I would always pray, God, if you bless me, I promise I'll give you the honor and the glory. And that I would never think any blessing or achievement or success was because of anything great I did, but because God chose to use me. So I'm very grateful today. Today, I'm grateful to have my family with me. My aunt, Irma, she turns 80 this year, so she's... she's the matriarch of the family now. My mother passed in 2008. She was one of my mother's oldest sisters. Losing my mom was never saw it coming. I just got a call one day, preparing for trial. I had started at the state. I've been there a few years, and I got a call on a Friday that my mom was in the hospital and she was terminally ill with breast cancer, and she never said anything to us about it. So I dropped everything and I went home, and about 2 weeks later she passed. And so it was tough, but my family have rallied around me and my brother. They have been there for us, and I'm so grateful to have you all in my life. And I know my mom, she's probably tearing heaven up right now, but I know she would be so joyful to know that you all showed up today to be here with me and my brother. So my grandparents were sharecroppers in a town called Cold Spur, Arkansas. It's not even I don't think it's even on a map anymore. Because they were sharecroppers, my mom, who was the youngest of 10 children, they grew up chopping cotton in the spring and picking cotton in the fall. Because in the South, Jim Crow, and especially in the Deep South, there were not jobs available for African American men and women. So they spent 10 hours a day chopping cotton in order to earn $3 a day. And they hated it, obviously. And so as they became of age, they began to move. My mom, because she was the youngest, sometimes she benefited from the fact that they would send her to school, because it was easier to send her to school than to have her in the cotton fields. But despite this, my mom, she still managed to graduate high school at the age of 16. And even with a high school degree, there were still no opportunities for an African-American woman, even with a high school degree in the town. So she also moved north. My family, they migrated as they became of age. Some went to St. Louis, some went to Chicago, some went to Los Angeles. We even had some in Oklahoma that would have been here today, but my cousin passed recently, and so we had to bury him this past weekend in Oklahoma. My mom, she went to St. Louis, where her sister was, her older brother was. And she managed to go to college and get an associate's degree, and then she taught school for a while. After while she was doing that, her mother got sick, and so she went back to Arkansas. And I was actually born in Little Rock, Arkansas, because that would have been the closest hospital to where she was at. After having me, I went to Chicago to live with my aunt there. She's not here today. She now has dementia. And so it's progressed to the point where her behavior is erratic and she requires 24 hours of care. So she wasn't able to be here today. But I do have family from St. Louis, from Chicago, that are here in support of me today. After I went to live in Chicago, it was because my mother joined the United States Army. And so while she traveled with the Army, I lived there. When I became like 5 or 6, I moved to Louisiana to live with her, and I started school. My mother was very serious about my education. Once she got out of the Army, things changed dramatically for her and for us. Financially, we struggled a lot. You know, she worked 2-3 jobs. She got public assistance, but still, it just wasn't enough from month to month. So we went without a lot because she was a single parent with 2 kids. However, she stuck with me on my education to the point, and I think probably only the JNC knows this, is that from the time I started kindergarten to the time I graduated high school, I had perfect attendance. I never missed a day of school, 13 years. And I did that because that's what I believe it took. I had to show up every day. And, you know, growing up in the South, it wasn't easy. My brother talks about, you know, mentioning these great things that happen. And so it's interesting to hear that because I think of it from the point of what else was going on You know, I remember facing a lot of racism in that town because it was a small town and the military was bringing in so much diversity that people weren't happy with it. There were struggles going on where, you know, you had friends in school or relationships in school that couldn't go outside of the school because people's parents or families didn't agree with blacks and whites and other mixing together. I remember being at these football games and we would look up and in the fields there would be crosses burning. They would literally go burn crosses in the field, so whatever team we were playing would look and be shocked that this was going on. And I was in school, this was in 1998, so I'm not talking about the 40s, 50s, or 60s, but in 98, this is what was going on and what we were dealing with. And we would get messages about, you don't belong here, you shouldn't be here. So a lot of what I was doing was trying to prove that it could be done and not to be limited. And I worked hard because I knew no one was going to give me anything. If I was going to get something, I had to earn it because it was not going to be an easy ride. And so my mother was so involved because as a little black girl, people took issue with the fact that I did well. And because for any success I had or anything I achieved, somebody related to them did not. And so I was a problem to some people. But my mother, she was my biggest cheerleader. And so when my brother talks about me being quiet and never talking about it, I never had to. My mom, she talked so much. Like anybody know my mom, they would know, like loud. When Bishop in church, she would be the loudest one in church. I didn't like to sit back next to her in church because she was so loud. When we were at football games, she was so loud, I didn't like to sit next to her there because she just was so loud and drew so much attention. And in church, if somebody said anything wrong with a scripture or quoted it wrong or had the wrong verse or number was off, she would shout it out in the middle of the service or in church, even if it was a visiting pastor. And so it was just kind of like, but she knew the Bible front and backwards. So that's why, you know, I grew up in the church. But, yeah. But and I also mentioned that too is because, you know, my passion for the law developed because of what I witnessed growing up and what I saw and how we were treated there. Today, you know, I'm fortunate to have some of my high school friends here. I have my good friend LaTanya Blanks and her sisters LaQuanda Blanks and LaToya Blanks, and also too another high school friend is Angie Colbert. And it's interesting because we grew up, their mom got stationed in Korea. So rather than moving the family, her dad stayed and kept raising them in Louisiana. Since we didn't have a vehicle, her dad would always come pick me up. So it was always the 3 Blanks is what they were called, and then once I came into the mix, it became the Fort Polk girls. And so we were all involved in band, and whatever we did, we all did the same thing, so it came easy. And her dad was the nicest, gentlest guy, and he would come pick me up to make sure I could attend as well. And I can't say enough good stuff about him. And then, you know, a few weeks ago, I get a call from Tanya that, you know, Woody, he had retired, and so now he's 67. And he started a company where he was delivering newspapers for one of the major newspapers. And so one morning he goes to deliver the paper, and 2 trucks come up and block him. And 4 white guys approach him asking him, you know, who are you? Why are you around here? You don't belong here. And then they proceeded to beat him. And they beat him so bad that he lost a portion of his eye, and he don't think he'll ever be able to see out of it again. And it's so hard and so frustrating because I just think back to why I went into the law was because of all the injustices that we watched. And I felt so hopeless that I couldn't do anything. And to see now, even to this day, that these things are still going on there. But it was one of the reasons, too, why I knew I had to leave, because I would be suffocated there. And so, you know, but I'm trusting the justice process to work out, and that, you know, we'll get justice for what happened to him. So I do want to thank some people. I started with my aunt. And I also want to thank my extended family for being here with me. I also, too, want to recognize my friend, Miss Monty Woods. She was actually one of my high school teachers. And she's so special to me because when I was in high school, I had probably my senior year, I decided I wanted to go to Howard. And I did early admissions and got accepted. And then they sent me an invitation to visit the school and to tour the campus and meet the people. But I knew I wouldn't be able to afford to go to a trip to D.C. with me and my mom, and I couldn't go by myself. And so I happened to tell her in school about it because, she was a listening ear throughout my time there. And so unbeknownst to me, she contacted my mom and told her, if you can get her there, I have family there. Her brother was stationed there with his wife and their kids. And they said, if you can get her there, they'll take care of her. And my mom got me a ticket to go, and her family took me in. They made sure I got to Howard, took me on a tour and everything. But that was the trip that solidified that there was nowhere else I was going but Howard. Like, I was in love when I got there and was able to straighten out all the financial stuff and everything. And so I have always been grateful to you for being there for me. She showed up for my but my college graduation, law school, and then I mentioned when I went to home because my mom was ill. It's like I heard what the doctor said, but hearing that didn't make sense to me because everything was fine. So to hear she was terminally ill just I could not process it. And I sat by the hospital bed just numb, and I didn't know what to do. But Miss Woods and even my friend Angie sat in the hospital with me. Didn't know what to say, but they were just there to provide comfort. And I remember the day I was sitting by her bed, and she took her last breath, and Miss Woods called me, and she came immediately, and she sat there with me while the doctors asked me about funeral arrangements and what to do, and I had no idea. And she sat there with me and held my hand. And then when I had to clean up my mother's house, she took me and my brother in so we could clean up her house and then have a ceremony for her there in Louisiana. And so I'm so grateful for you being in my life. And that's why I am the biggest supporter of teachers, because I know the impact that they can have on a child's life. And you are an example of it. That's why you were like Teacher of the Year. And I remember she called me to do a recommendation, and I was just like, I dropped everything I had to do because I had a lot to say and why she should have been Teacher of the Year. So I thank you for that. And I thank you, Angie, for sitting with me. And Angie's a nurse, and I remember the nurses coming in to treat my mom, and she would get up and she would help them as well. And I'm just grateful for that. To the speakers, Bishop Curry, Elder Adams, it means the world to me for you guys to be here today. Like I said, I grew up in a church. They would send me to these different competitions as well, and so I have always been well versed in the Word. Even though I struggled when my mother passed, but eventually I came back around. But I think, Bishop, one of the things happened when I got here is, I was an adult. And so as a child, there was a lot of things, you hear, you learn, you're optimistic, and then as an adult, reality sets in. And so you've really taught me the benefit and the blessing and forgiveness and the importance of peace of mind. And you would always say about, the devil attacking your mind. You got to keep your mind intact, because if you can get your mind, then everything else will follow. And so I've always been mindful of those things. And I thank you for your teachings and your life just being an example and a blessing for me. Jordan, thank you so much for speaking today. I really appreciate you. You've always been so supportive. Before I was a judge, now that I'm a judge, I think one of the last calls you made was trying to plan a Black History program to celebrate the new judges prior to the pandemic. So I thank you. Sharice, you did want me to go to Egypt. I don't know why we're doing this. Just like you didn't want to get on the hot air balloon. I convinced you to do that, and now it's the best thing ever. So I don't even know why she loves to tell this story about me just bogarting her trip. She knows she wanted me to go. But I thank you. I think you're amazing. You're awesome. And I'm just as excited as I am about my future. I know you're going to be great. You're going to be there, too. And I support anything you want to do. Yeah. And to my brother, I'm so proud of you. And I know our mom would be too. It's so funny because he's not a speaker, public speaker. I didn't think he was. But, last time we were planning the investiture, he was like, no, I don't want to speak. No, get somebody else to do that. I'll just be there. And so this time something told me just to ask him. It's almost kind of like the first right of refusal. Let me give him a chance to say no before, even though I already had somebody lined up. I'm like, I'm going to ask him so he can't say I didn't ask. And he said, yes, I want to speak. And so I was like, no pressure, you don't have to, but he really did. And so it was like, what I would ask him, so what are you going to talk about? What you going to say? And he was like, I got it, don't worry about it. He didn't want to say nothing. And so then I tried to well, I don't want it to come, I might say something, I can take it out of my speech if you're going to say it. He wouldn't hear it. And then yesterday as our family started coming in, I was like, what did he tell y'all? What did he say? And even last night while we were getting prepared, I was like, I know he told somebody something, and they was like, no, he won't say anything. So I was a little nervous today because I was thinking, well, I don't want him in there telling them people all my business. So, but, I love you to the moon and back. And it's so great, the relationship we have now, because growing up, we fought so much. It was crazy. We would literally tear the house up fighting and didn't have to clean up before my mom got home because we fought. I've never had to, physically really fight anybody, but I could because, we fought a lot. Yeah. So I thank you for that. Judge Prescott. I don't know why you have to be so difficult all the time. But you know what? I love you to death, and I appreciate you. And I remember when I put in to become a division chief, it was a temporary spot. And actually, I was going to try it because let's see how it goes, that kind of thing. And I was going to stay in Louisiana because I had planned to come to Miami, do my 3 years with the state, and then I was going to leave. My mom died right before the 3 years, and so it just threw me for a loop. And so since I was going to stay here, I knew I've never been one to be stagnant. I need to be doing something that's beneficial or progressive. And so I put in for a temporary spot, which wasn't your division. So we did the interviews, and it was probably a bunch of people applied that year, so I didn't know if I stood a chance or not. But then they said a permanent spot came open after I had interviewed, and so everybody would be considered. And so I thought it bettered my chances of getting the temporary spot in the other division. And I remember Jose Arrojo, coming to my office, and he was so proud and happy to tell me that I got in the spot and that it was going to be with you. And I didn't know at the time why he was so happy or why he thought this was going to be such a great combination. But Jose always had my back. He was always pushing me, always encouraging me to do stuff. And so, and I remember thinking well, I hope he don't think because we black we gonna get along. Because I'd already experienced that. I was like, but no. But when I tell you the experience, I understand why. Considering how he felt about me and what he wanted for me, I think he knew that I needed to be with someone like you. So starting out as a division chief, I couldn't have been in a better spot. And what I do remember is, starting out, your kids were at work with you one day. And I remember thinking, wow, that's cool, their dad's a judge. And I remember thinking, I wonder what's it like to grow up with a judge. And I didn't think about it anymore after that. I just remember having that thought. I didn't think about it. So fast forward to 2019, I get appointed to the bench. U.S. Attorney's Office has a going away for me. And they always invite people to come back and speak, surprise guests. And they invited you to come. And when you were speaking, I remember you talked to me about Solomon. And you reminded me that God was pleased with Solomon. And that he was so pleased, he told Solomon, ask me anything you want in the world, and I'll give it to you. And Solomon asked God for wisdom. And you said, I want you to always remember that. And I have always included that in my prayer, praying for wisdom. But it was in that moment that I was like, oh, he always got to say something deep. But when you said that, it took me back to that first time we met, and I saw you with your kids, and I thought, what's it like to grow up with him? And I thought back, because by that point it had been 10 years, and I thought back to every decision that I had made, every move, you had been there. When I was the president of the MBPA, I remember the times I called you last minute, the times I called you as a plan B because something didn't go right, and you would drop everything, you would switch your schedule, you would figure it out, and you were always there. And even when I became a judge, you were like, let's make this happen, it's gonna happen. And then I got to judicial college and I saw you there as a teacher, I did get worried because I felt like that may be your chance to get me back publicly. So, but you know, I realized at that point, I knew what it was like because of those 10 years together. The support, the love, the nurturing, and even though we fight all the time, like, you know, I know it's in good spirit. And so I thank you for being here today. I thank you for your kind words. And also, he does not know my aunt, by the way. He just met her today, so she was not calling him. There was no letters. There was no checks. So the first half of that story was not even truthful. Thank you. But one thing I did want to mention, one more thing, Judge Prescott, is that when I went to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and I know you called on my behalf, and I remember Ed Stam telling me, Judge Prescott never calls for anybody. And so because of his name and reputation, when he calls, he listens. And I knew Ed Stam was a friend of yours. Well, eventually I learned he was a friend of yours. And then there was that Harry Wallace guy. And I remember you having those two to look out for me. And when I tell you, well, they did their job. Now, to Harry, I don't know, we have to talk about that still. But Ed Stam, he took it on like a mission and looked out for me, guided me. And even to this day, whatever I'm doing, he makes sure to support me. And Harry does too. I just give him a hard time because he's a difficult person, just like you, so I understand why you guys are friends. For that. And Judge Gales, I have to thank you. And I asked Judge Gales to swear me in because when I was at the state, I never had cases with Judge Gales. He became a district court judge the same year that I became a AUSA, so a few months before me. And I think when I started indicting cases, they just all started falling in front of him for some reason. And I guess maybe because he was a new judge. So all my nice cases, well-done cases fell in front of him. Anything that was difficult fell in front of Judge Graham. And that led to our love-hate relationship. But with Judge Gales, though, he would regularly ask me, when are you going to put in to become a judge? And I would always say that, you know, I have this commitment with the U.S. Attorney's Office and I can't do it. And so, and this went on for years. And then when my commitment just happened to end, when the new U.S. Attorney was coming on, and I accepted the position of special counsel. And so I told Judge Gales when he asked after that, like, oh, no, I couldn't do it because of this, because I just took on this new position, so I think I have to wait to at least try it out. And I remember he said, I think you should talk to the U.S. Attorney, tell her, you know, what we talked about, and let's see how it goes. And so sure enough, I talked to her, and she said, I think it's a great idea, and you need to apply now. And when I went back to Judge Gales and told him, she said I could apply, Judge Gales said, we're doing this right? And I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. And when I tell you the amount of support he gave me, because when it was the applying now meant next week. And if you've ever seen these application packages, they're not something you do overnight. And in fact, people spend months doing them, and you get people to review them. And I didn't have time to do all of that. But Judge Gales, I texted him, it could be late at night, it could be early in the morning. He responded by text, email, everything. And there was even a time where I was worried that I would not be as prepared as I need to be, and thought about maybe I need to wait till the next time just to make sure, trying to be perfect. But you were so supportive, so there for me, that I was like, I can't go to him and tell him that I'm going to wait till the next time, because we had put so much effort into getting ready that week. And so I am so grateful to you, and I knew if this happened, that you would have to swear me in, because at that point you were just awesome, and I needed that push to do it. And so I thank you for that. Longer than I thought. Oh, God. Okay, and appearing virtually is Mr. H.T. Smith and Veronica Garman. I just have to thank them for all of their support and work. After speaking to Judge Gales about applying, I talked to H.T. As well as Larry Hanfield about applying. And I remember H.T. told me, you better not have worked harder on these cases and for everybody else than you do for yourself. And so when he told me that, it's kind of like something clicked and I understood what I needed to do. And so I prepared as if I was my own client. And that's why when Sharice talked about calling the people, it's kind of like, well, these are witnesses that's going to be called. And I need to know what they're going to say. I can't change what they say, but I need to know so that I can be prepared for it. So I approached it like that, and which is why I put so much work into it. So I thank him and for all his references and support over the years for everything he's done. Mr. Hanfield, I thank you as well from the beginning. I got here and got to know you. You've always been supportive. You've always been encouraging. Nothing I've wanted to do that you thought was impossible. It's kind of like, go do it. Let's get it done, and how can I help you make that happen? And so I thank you for that, sir. Ms. Lawrence, I thank you and the Embrace Girls Foundation. I joined because when I became a division chief and had to do homicides, I felt like I needed to be more involved in the community, because I thought I would be here 3 years and leave. But then when I made the decision to stay, I knew I needed to be more involved to understand these different aspects of the community and what's going on. And so I have learned so much. And I think the program has been so awesome to helping these little girls. And I love them because I was them. I know what types of lives they're living and what they're going through. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to be a part of it. I thank you for your heart and your support and for anything I've ever needed, for you being there for me. No questions asked. So I thank you. And I'm coming to a close. So I cannot miss the opportunity to thank the person who started all of this, Ms. Rundle. So it's funny, when I was leaving to go to the U.S. Attorney's Office, I asked to see my employee file, because I knew the FBI would be doing an investigation. They're going to look. So again, I can't change what's in there, but I need to know so that I can address it when my interview comes. So I was going through the file, and one of the interviewers basically said they would not recommend me. They would not recommend me. I shouldn't be hired, and that I should be a defense attorney. And so what's ironic is that I didn't know anybody in the state attorney's office. I never talked to anyone. So nothing ever changed about what I said or did. I hadn't even been to Miami before. And then somehow I still got an interview with you. And on your notes, you wrote super candidate, great leadership ability, and in capital letters, make her an offer immediately. And so with the swipe of your pen, you started me on a trajectory that led me to this point today. So I am eternally grateful for you, your support for every move I've made, the calls you've made, the doors you probably banged on for me. I thank you for all of it and for this opportunity here. Okay. Judge Wolfson, Andrea, my first felony division chief, I became the trial attorney that I was because of you. When I started with you, you were a new division chief and I was a new felony attorney. And you were there. I remember being on the floor with files all around us. We were in front of a very difficult judge, and we had some difficulties in the division. But you were there for me each time, every time. And you, in your personal life, were dealing with a lot of struggles. And I don't know how you did it, but you became my role model for how does a woman present in court. How to put a case together, how to interact with defense attorneys or male defense attorneys if they speak to you a certain type of way. Or if you're not happy with something that the court says, how to react to it. So you were my role model for that. And in putting cases together, my first homicide case was with you. And so I learned so much from you. I have the utmost respect and admiration for you. And I thank you for all you've done to help me be successful in my career. Okay. Okay. I also have to thank my staff that's here. Frederica, Jean-Pierre, Max Pretemps over there, my judicial system assistant and bailiff have been so supportive, have been so great. I couldn't do this without you. Any success I've had thus far is because you all have supported me. I think the world of you all, and I'm looking forward to the future and decisions that whatever you all want to do, I support you all. and I'm just grateful for your support for being here. My North Day crew, I have to thank you all as well. Judge Stein is the cutest. She even sent me a picture today congratulating me, and it was a picture of my first day in the courthouse that I remember she took that picture and said, well, we should take a picture, and I forgot all about it, and today she sent it to me, and I appreciate that, saying that this was meant to be. So thank you. Lear, Judge Lear, I know she's out. Judge Moore, Harris, and he Heckelbaugh. I was trying to think of everybody, so thank you all for that. I also, too, have to thank Judge Gordon Murray. He's our county civil administrative judge, and I'm thanking him because if I don't, he said he'll make my life miserable. But I thank him because, no, he's been very supportive. He's been there for me. Might not always agree on everything, but he's been very supportive, and I do appreciate your leadership and your guidance. Thank you very much. Also, too, to my Dade County Courthouse crew, Judge Lopez, thank you, and Judge Perez Medina, thank you as well. My brother is a bailiff for Judge Luis Perez Medina. So, Luis, I just have to thank you for everything you've done for him. He's grown so much, matured, and he loves you and Kevin Riles over there. He's in love with your division, and I just thank you for taking him in, and y'all just having a great time over there. I also have to thank my AKA sisters. My line sisters are here. Thank you, ladies. From Alpha Chapter and for Gamma Zeta Omega Chapter. And also, too, have to thank Monica Barnes, who has, from the time we met, one of my sorority sisters here in South Florida, has always pushed me, encouraged me, and probably saw this day for me long before I even did. So I thank you for your support. I want to thank the Dade County Chapter of the Lynx for everything you've done for me, the support, the sisterhood, and for you all being here today. My U.S. Attorney's Office, I have to thank you all as well as the crew, Maurice, Jonathan, Real One, Quinn, and Robert, because if I don't say it, I'll hear about it. And Tony and everyone else that's here, thank you all for being here. I love you guys to death. Also to Hunt Atanat, I have to thank you, sir, especially. My JA called me one day and said there was an attorney that wanted to know when I was going to be in the office because they wanted to serve me with something. And I was like, is it Hans? And I was like, because Hans is probably the only one right now that really could probably articulate facts enough to say that, you probably could get a restraining order against me because I badger him and harass him so much. And I thank you for your support, for being a gentleman, and for being there for me and helping me during this time. Thank you, sir. Luis Suarez, I have to thank you as well because you have been so supportive and have been everything. You've done everything you could to help me, and I am so appreciative of it, and thank you for everything. To the J&C, Mr. Walter Harvey, Robert Fernandez, Hayden O'Byrne, Christine Hernandez, Miranda Soto, Robert Pardo, Scott Dimond, Daniel Friedman, George Mestry, and Paul Huck. I thank you for choosing me, sending me to the governor, and I thank you for even supporting me after the appointment and with everything else that I've attempted to do. Thank you all for your service, and thank you for that. I also, too, have to thank the governor, Ron DeSantis, and his staff, Joseph Jaco, Nicholas Primrose, John McIver, Colleen Erst, and James Utmeyer. Okay. I also need to thank Judge Tanya Brinkley. Tanya has been one of the best support systems that I could have ever had in being a judge. When I got appointed at the end of December, so it was the Christmas holiday and people were out. Tanya was on Christmas holiday break, and I needed to interview staff. And I had nowhere to interview, and I wasn't even sure what to do. She came in from her vacation to help me to interview people. And since I've been a judge, you have been so supportive, always taking my calls, being there for me, encouraging me. And, I don't know if you always feel appreciated, but I see you, I recognize the work you're doing, and I know you have a good heart. And I thank you for everything you've done. To my cohort, Ayana and Julie, who we were appointed together, I am grateful for you all. I've learned so much from you all, and I'm glad we're experiencing this together. Couldn't have asked for a better crew to get started. So I love you guys. Then Judge Heckelbaugh and Judge Delancey, I'm glad you all came into the fold as well. And so we have the 6, and I'm grateful for all of you all for that. Last but not least, I just have some people I need to thank. I want to thank Judge Lizette Reed, Judge Monica Gordo, Judge Bronwyn Miller, Lillian Sanchez, Doug Harrison, Tom Spencer, John Sale, Marty Raskin, Jason Gonzalez, Carol Lumpkin, Haru Samra, Mike Pinero, Scott Wagner, Todd Michaels, Commissioner Keone McGee, Yolanda Cash Jackson, Lonnie Lawrence, Justice John Coriel, Judge John Thornton, Judge Alex Bacor, Judge Donald Graham. I know you're probably surprised too. He made it a point to make life miserable for me when I was over there. No, and Judge Rodney Smith, I have to thank you and your family for the support that you all have given me. So I'm so grateful for you all. Carrie Crockett, Aaron Griggs, Marcus Griggs, thank you for your friendship and your support. Ladies Who Lunch, John Kabrinsky, and Stassi and Rachel, I have to thank you all for coming down from Tallahassee today to be here. You all have been so supportive, and I love you guys to death. Mark LaPointe, Rod Vereen, and Mr. John Koziak. Those are the people I want to thank. So again, thank you all for being here today. I just ask for your continued support as I continue on this journey, trying to be a good judge, and I look forward to doing this for a long time. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry it took so long.
Welcome to the bench, Judge Darrough. We're
you.
so proud of you. We're happy you're among us. And thank you for sharing your history with us. The one thing I just want to say before we end is that as much as this day, it's hard that it is historical, but it is historical. And the one thing we can't forget, and I know HT's one who's taught me that, is we cannot bury history. We cannot forget our history. We need to remember the history so that we can learn from it and shine anew. And I think that today has been such a celebration of that. So thank you for sharing your story with us. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to join Judge Darrough and her friends and family and congratulate her, you can come here on your right, our left, and you can exit there, and the court is adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
Get
I
one
appreciate it. Thank you.
picture that they're going to take. Hold on. And then you can
Take one now. Okay.
Well done.
Thank you.
Bye.